Hey everyone, ready to dig into something pretty fascinating? We're going deep on Himalayan salt today. You know those pink lamps everyone has? Well, there's a lot more to this mineral than just looking pretty. We'll be uncovering its history, the science behind it, and even busting a few myths along the way.
It really is intriguing how this salt even formed. Imagine millions of years ago, ancient seas slowly drying up. They left behind huge salt deposits. Then, over a long time, tectonic shifts buried those deposits, like way under pressure. And that's how we get the unique Himalayan salt we all know and love today.
Wow, so we're talking some serious geological history here.
Mhm.
And speaking of history, I know the Khewra Salt Mine in Pakistan is a major source for Himalayan salt. That's got to be one of the oldest and largest salt mines in the world, right?
Oh, absolutely. Venturing into those tunnels is like stepping back in time. Huge chambers,
Yeah.
walls made entirely of sparkling pink salt. The scale of it is really awe-inspiring. And that pink color, that comes directly from the minerals in the salt.
Okay, so regular table salt, that's mostly just sodium chloride. But what makes Himalayan salt different?
That's where trace minerals come in. We're talking iron, magnesium, potassium, calcium. They're all there, but in super tiny amounts. And that's what gives Himalayan salt its color. It's possible they also make subtle flavor differences, although that's still being debated.
Hmm. That makes me think about how just a pinch of spice can totally change the taste of a dish. Is it a similar idea here with these trace minerals?
That's a great analogy. Some people believe that those trace minerals add, like a more complex, almost earthy note to the salt. But the thing is, those minerals are only in very small amounts. They might make a visual impact, but their impact on flavor is way more subtle.
Got it. Okay, let's be real for a sec. We've all seen the marketing hype about Himalayan salt, claims about better hydration,
Yeah.
balanced pH, even air purification from those salt lamps. What does science actually say about all this?
Yeah, that's where we need to separate fact from fiction. Some small studies have hinted at potential benefits, but we need a lot more research to confirm any of those claims. Let's take hydration, for example. Himalayan salt does contain electrolytes, but you'd get a lot more from just eating a balanced diet.
So basically, an apple a day is going to do a lot more for hydration than a pinch of pink salt. What about those salt lamps? They look cool, but do they really purify the air like some people say?
The idea is they release negative ions, and those are supposed to neutralize pollutants. But there's no scientific evidence to suggest that they actually generate enough to make a difference in your home. They might create a cool vibe, but that air purifying power is mostly a myth.
So we got to be smart consumers and not just believe every health trend. Looks like those pretty pink crystals might not be a miracle cure after all. But even if we take the health claims with a grain of salt, pun intended, Himalayan salt still has a lot to offer right now.
Absolutely. That's what's so cool about it. Beyond all the marketing, there's this rich history of cultural uses, plus a whole world of culinary possibilities to explore. It's easy to get caught up in all those health claims, but for me, the real magic of Himalayan salt is in the kitchen.
Yeah, totally. Himalayan salt seems like it's having a real moment in the culinary world. But is it just a trendy ingredient, or does it really bring something different to the table compared to regular salt?
Oh, it's definitely more than just a trend. Think about those larger crystals. They give you this satisfying crunch, and they dissolve slower, which makes them perfect for finishing a dish. You get a burst of flavor and that touch of visual flair.
I love that, like a little flavor explosion with each bite.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about a subtle taste difference. The texture matters too.
Yeah.
Are there certain dishes where Himalayan salt really shines?
Absolutely. It's amazing on grilled meats, roasted veggies, even chocolate desserts. Those subtle mineral notes really boost the natural flavors. And if you're feeling adventurous, you can even try cooking on a Himalayan salt block.
Hold on, you can cook on a block of salt. That's a new one for me. How does that even work?
It's pretty cool, actually. You heat up the block and it becomes your cooking surface. It infuses the food with a delicate salty flavor. It's also great for keeping things moist, so your food ends up super tender and flavorful.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued. That's going on my culinary bucket list for sure. But for those of us who aren't quite ready for salt block cooking, what are some simple ways to start using Himalayan salt?
Playing around with different grinds is a good starting point. A fine powder is good for everyday seasoning, but coarser crystals are better for finishing dishes, or even making your own flavored salts.
So it's not just about replacing regular salt, it's like opening up a whole new world of textures and flavors. I love that Himalayan salt can elevate both how a dish tastes and how it looks. But let's be honest, it's a bit pricier than regular salt. Is this really worth the extra cost?
That's a great question. Ultimately, it comes down to personal preference. If you appreciate those subtle flavors and enjoy experimenting in the kitchen, then yeah, I think it's worth it. It's kind of like choosing between a regular cup of coffee and a specialty blend. Sometimes you're willing to spend a little more for a truly unique and flavorful experience.
I like that analogy. It's about appreciating the craftsmanship and the special qualities of something unique. So we've covered Himalayan salt's culinary star power. But earlier we mentioned other uses like bath salts and inhalers. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
Of course. Let's explore the world of Himalayan salt beyond the kitchen. Soaking in a warm bath with Himalayan salt is said to have a bunch of benefits. It can help soothe sore muscles, draw out impurities, even improve circulation.
That sounds so relaxing. Is it the salt itself that provides these benefits?
The salt definitely plays a key role. It's believed to help soften skin. And because of all those minerals, maybe nourish it too. Plus, those pink crystals dissolving in the water just make it feel extra luxurious.
Right, like a spa treatment you can do at home. Now, what about those salt inhalers? Do they actually help with respiratory issues?
Himalayan salt inhalers are getting more popular as a natural way to maybe support respiratory health. The idea is that breathing in those salt particles might clear your airways and reduce inflammation, making it easier to breathe.
That makes sense. I've heard of people using salt therapy for things like asthma and allergies. Is there any research to back this up?
We need more research to fully understand the effects of salt therapy, but anecdotal evidence suggests it can help some people. Of course, always talk to a healthcare professional before trying any new therapy.
That's good advice. It's amazing how Himalayan salt has so many different uses, from making our food taste better to potentially improving our well-being. It's like this simple mineral holds a whole world of possibilities.
It really does. But just like with any resource, it's important to think about the impact of our choices. And that brings us to a really important aspect of Himalayan salt, the ethics of sourcing it.
So we've been on this journey with Himalayan salt, and we've seen where it comes from and how people are using it. But before we finish up, I'm curious, how does Himalayan salt stack up against other specialty salts out there?
That's a great question. The world of salt is really diverse. Each type has its own unique flavor profile. And they're all used in different ways. We've got sea salt, basically a general term for salts that come from evaporated seawater. Think of it like a fancier version of table salt. It usually has some trace minerals which give it a more complex flavor.
Sea salt, it's a classic. I always keep some around for finishing dishes. It's crazy how just a sprinkle of sea salt can really make those flavors pop.
Exactly. And then there's fleur de sel. It's a delicate sea salt harvested by hand. It has this flaky texture and a slightly sweet flavor. It's really prized for its subtle flavor and luxurious feel.
Fleur de sel.
Mm.
It sounds so fancy. I can just imagine chefs using it on gourmet dishes
Yeah.
or delicate desserts.
You got it. It's all about those subtle flavors. And a beautiful presentation. Of course, we can't forget about black salt, also called kala namak. It's a volcanic rock salt with a distinct sulfuric aroma and a kind of tangy flavor.
Black salt. That's one I haven't experimented with much.
Yeah.
What's it typically used for?
It's a common ingredient in Indian cuisine and vegan cooking. It's used to create that eggy flavor. It has a really unique element to dishes.
Wow, that's so interesting. There are so many different salts, each with its own story and purpose. But where does Himalayan salt fit in with all these other options? What makes it stand out?
Well, first of all, there's that beautiful pink color. It just makes any dish look better. And then you have those subtle mineral notes that give it a distinctive flavor. Plus, it's got a coarser texture, which makes it great for seasoning and finishing. You get that satisfying crunch.
Like the celebrity of the salt world. Beautiful and talented.
So it sounds like choosing the right salt really depends on what you're looking for. The flavor, the texture, even how you want the dish to look. Precisely. It's all about exploring different options and figuring out what works best for your cooking style and your taste.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've busted some myths, explored the science and history, and learned about all the different ways to use Himalayan salt. It's amazing how much there is to learn about something as simple as salt.
I know, right? It just shows that even everyday things can have hidden depths and fascinating stories.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our Himalayan salt adventure, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this?
I think the most important thing is to approach Himalayan salt and really any ingredient with curiosity and a critical eye. Don't just believe the hype. Explore, experiment, and find out what you like best.
Well said. And on that note, we'll say goodbye to the amazing world of Himalayan salt. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.